This is episode 2 with Dennis Rogers. Welcome to the Sports Business Classroom audio experience. I'm your host, Sergio Millis, and each week I'll bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover how to break in and succeed in sports and life. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and let the experience begin. This episode is brought to you by Sports Business Classroom, an immersive sports business training and educational experience dedicated to preparing future sports business professionals. It is a one-of-a-kind learning opportunity for those interested in the business of basketball and jobs in sports. Sports Business Classroom combines the best of all worlds into a single package: great academics, hands-on experience, immersion in the Las Vegas Summer League, and interaction with some of the best minds working in and around the NBA. For more information about Sports Business Classroom, go to sportsbusinessclassroom.com. This episode is also brought to you by Hall Pass Media, a full-service marketing agency that specializes in brand consulting, event management, digital marketing, and creative design. For more information on Hall Pass Media, go to hallpassnetwork.com. Today's guest is Dennis Rogers, Director of Communications for the LA Clippers. He's a 20-year vet of the sports business industry, has close relationships with many of your favorite NBA players, and really has a fascinating story. In this episode, we dive into his job, how he got started in sports, his career path, advice he has for people wanting to break into the industry, and so much more. Dennis is a good friend, has a wealth of knowledge, and is someone whose story will definitely inspire you to achieve your hopes and dreams. This episode truly is a treasure trove of advice and action items. Without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce my good friend, Dennis Rogers. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah, so what I wanted to start off with today, we're going to jump around quite a bit today, but I do want to try to start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what family life was like.
Yeah.
Give us some background on what Dennis Rogers was like growing up.
Well, I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Dallas and San Antonio. Early on was in Dallas, high school, moved to San Antonio. Lived with my mom. My parents were divorced, but close with both sides. 2 older sisters. Went to high school in San Antonio. Played sports. Sports was a gigantic part of my life for as long as I can remember. My dad and I used to go to World Series games, Final Fours if we could. So planned all our outings through sports. So always loved sports, loved basketball, tennis, track, football, anything. I loved it, but especially basketball growing up. And then high school in San Antonio, then college in Dallas.
Okay. And what did you play? You said you played sports in high school.
I played basketball for the most part, but I also did tennis and I also did track and field.
Multi-sport athlete.
Yeah, multi-sport. I played baseball early on, but then I gave it up solely for basketball. Really wanted to try and go to that next level in basketball. Had a chance, but I took tennis up as a senior in high school. I really wanted to win a state title, and our tennis team was just unreal. So I was able to join the tennis team and win a state title my senior year in high school. I loved tennis at that point in my life and played 9 hours a day in the summer and just tried to get as good as I could. And also at the same time, loved basketball and tried to go to that next level. But I had an opportunity to go walk on at a SEC school. Instead, I decided just to go enjoy college, stay in state, and go back to SMU.
Okay, so safe to say you could dominate me at tennis?
I've played, it's funny, I played so much in high school, and since then, I've played maybe 5 times total. And I'm fairly old, so that's a long time ago. One of them was to win a intramural championship for my frat in college, and the other 4 times just for fun.
Okay. Yeah, no, and so SMU, you went to college at SMU. What made you decide to go there?
Well, I was familiar with Dallas, obviously. My dad lived in Dallas. I wanted to be closer to him. And one of my sisters lived in Dallas and went to SMU. So it was an easy choice. A bunch of my high school friends, about 8 to 10, went there too. So easy choice, great school, good name. I love Dallas, so that's why.
And you said you were part of a frat. What frat were you part of?
I was a Lambda Chi. SMU is obviously a very big Greek school, so I joined a frat. I was a Lambda Chi. I was social chair for a couple of years for that frat. And, I just loved college. I loved being in Dallas. And I loved everything Dallas had to offer. And I was a part of a lot of groups in college.
Okay. Now, when you were in school, did you know that you wanted to work in sports by then? I mean, you said you and your dad had that relationship, going to a bunch of stuff. Like, did you know that that's where you were going to end up professionally, or where were you at that point?
You know, I wish I did. I loved sports and I loved college. I wish I could go back and tell myself, you got to like start now, in terms of like trying to get your career going and go volunteer or intern or whatever. But I was the opposite. I was I want to have fun in college kind of guy. So I wish I could have redid it and concentrated more, but I started late. It wasn't until I majored in communications, so I knew I wanted to try and be in PR in sports. But it wasn't until about my senior year, it's like, man, I really want to work in sports. How can I get this done?
Oh, that's awesome. And was there any particular moment or class or person that inspired you to head towards sports, or was it just your love for different sports?
I mean, it was my love for the sports, but SMU had a sports class that it came on late. My senior year, they first offered one. Now I think the majority of colleges do offer kind of sports administration or some kind of sports classes, sports marketing or whatever. But I was late. Obviously, it was a long time ago, so that was kind of the beginning of that time where sports was like a specialized place. And, you know, I looked up to a few people, a couple of my classmates, actually. One of my fraternity brothers loves sports as much as I do, and we've kind of mirrored each other a little bit in our career paths, fortunately. Okay,
and he's still in sports?
Yeah, he is. He's the president of the G League franchise for the Utah Jazz.
Wow.
Yeah, so we mirrored ourselves quite a bit in terms of how I got my start. I kind of followed him in my first two jobs. He got a start in the NBA. I came after him, and we were both directors. He was director of PR for the Jazz. I was at the Clippers. So it was quite random that we were the same class, same frat, and we've been able to kind of grow our careers kind of together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We're going to get back to that as far as your current gig. But when doing my research, I saw that you went to Regent's University in London. Mm-hmm. Was this in 98?
Yeah.
How did you end up going from SMU to school in London? Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I wanted to explore the world, and I'd never been out in the country then, and SMU offers kind of a program that allows you to go to school elsewhere, and Regents in London was one of those opportunities. So there was a small group of us, about 10 from my college, that went there for a few months and took classes. And we were super close, the 10 of us that went. It was an incredible experience. I wish I, could go back and do it all over again. It was that awesome, but it allowed me to take classes, learn PR. It was more PR focused, so it was all PR classes. So we learned different international PR strategies, went to different businesses, and then on the weekends, me and my friends from SMU, we would travel. I mean, we'd go to Paris, we go to Belgium, we go to Amsterdam, we go, everywhere. So it was an incredible experience, and it really kind of opened my eyes to what's out there in the world and how amazing the world is, and different cultures, and just interacting with different people, and it's just an amazing experience, and that kind of opened my love for travel. And I'm a huge travel enthusiast. My wife and I, we love to travel internationally in the summers, so it's kind of opened my world, and that's a huge thing of my life right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely want to get into your travels a little bit later. I mean, I think what we'll get into with your job, you get to travel the country, which I want to get into. But I think it's so important for people to just get out. The perspective you get when you get out of your bubble is really priceless. And I think, you've obviously seen that.
Yes.
Everybody I've talked to who loves to travel, that's one of the reasons they do it, right? Is you just come back to your own world with a new appreciation for the things you have and a new perspective.
Yes.
But so after London, did you get a job, or did you I see you went to MSU, to Mississippi State.
So after London, I was there for a few months, then I went back to SMU, finished my degree, and like I said, I didn't intern in college anywhere, and so that was a big fault of mine when I can look back on it, right? I was social chair in my frat. I was doing this group. I was playing this intramural sport all the time. I was having a lot of fun, and I did did the college experience.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I kept hearing from my family and friends that were older, like, college is 4 years. It goes by so fast. Like, it's the time of your life. Like, it's over like that, right? And so when you're in it, it's like, I'm not really going to listen to that. But like, I tried to kind of take that to heart and know that like, this is going to be a great time in my life. I'm not going to have this again, because it's like the working world. So when I was a senior, I was like, this is do or die time. It's hard for me to get a gig. But when I was a high school senior, I had an opportunity to kind of go walk on at Mississippi State and play basketball. Well, I didn't do that. I went to SMU. So the assistant coach at that time at MSU became the head coach. So I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And he was like, you should come out here and go to Mississippi State for grad school and be a grad assistant basketball coach.
Wow.
And so I was like, that's incredible. Like, I love basketball. I love college basketball. And I almost went there. So I'm familiar with the school because I used to help out their basketball camps sometimes in the summer. So I'll do it. I'll go to Starkville, Mississippi. Population 18,000.
Wow.
Let's do it.
And so that's how you got your first shot.
Yeah. So I went to grad school, but primarily I was there to be a grad assistant coach.
Okay.
So, those are 5 a.m. days, helping the coaches with whatever they need. And so it was an awesome experience, and it was an eye-opening experience. I lived with the head coach for the first 5 months of that, and I saw firsthand just how grueling it is to be a head coach. Like, just nonstop, you're up, you barely get any sleep, you're watching tape, you're falling asleep in your chair. If you don't win games, you got all these people upset at you. It's either recruiting. It's a very difficult job. Like, college coaching is just it's a grind. I mean, it's an amazing gig, but it's a tough gig. So at the end of that year, I was like, I don't know if this is the right path for me. I love basketball. I love sports, but I don't know if coaching is the right way. I have this degree in PR. Let's go back to Dallas. My buddy was an intern at the Cowboys. Let's see if I can get some kind of gig and start my career off in my field that I chose in college.
Yeah.
So
when you were just to recap, when you were at Mississippi State and you were a grad assistant, mm-hmm. At the time you were potentially considering coaching?
Yeah, I was really considering coaching, and that's what I thought I really wanted to do. Yeah. But during that year, I loved it. Believe me, it was an incredible experience to be in the SEC and go to all those venues and see the team that we had. It was exciting. Living in a college town, that was exciting. Yeah. But it was more so that I thought I was better suited for what I studied in college. And so I wanted to go pursue that after that year.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's such an important lesson for everybody listening, is what you think you want to do sometimes is very different from what you're actually going to do or want to do after you actually get some experience, right? So that's why, when I talk to people, it's very much, you should get as much experience as possible, not just for the sake of experience, but so that you can see what it is you don't like to do. And it sounds like, although you had a great experience at MSU, it was an experience that taught you that that's not who you wanted to be.
Yes, for sure.
And so tell me a little bit about the Cowboys.
So yeah, I went back to Dallas, and I'm still fairly young at the time, so I know I can take some chances at the time. So I got an internship with the Cowboys, and obviously that's not an easy thing to do. And it was an unpaid internship, which was something I was willing to gamble on myself because I didn't have that experience on that resume. I needed to build that resume up. So I interned with the Cowboys, and I was like, I'll do anything. And so my buddy, who from college, was kind of in that same spot. So I did a lot of video editing. When players would wear mics, I would go edit, and I had no experience, but I just taught myself. I wanted to get in, and I loved the Dallas Cowboys. I'm from Dallas, huge Cowboys fan. So me being, 22, I was like, this is incredible. So I would do anything. I held the camera during the coaches show, nervous as can be holding the camera, no experience. But at the same time, I started to meet the PR people, the marketing people. So I still got a little experience in the field I wanted to. It was just trying to break in. So that was kind of my first gig, but probably the funniest story of my entire career happened at the Cowboys. And it really humbled me because I've been fortunate to work in sports all my life, but I was on the sidelines. The Cowboys were playing the Seahawks, and Emmitt Smith broke the all-time rushing record. Now, I'm a huge Cowboys fan, like I said, and I was so excited, jumping up and down on the sideline, but I'm in a work capacity. Didn't think anything of it. Come in Monday, and they're like, "Oh, Dennis, we got to show you something." So they're showing the footage of Emmitt breaking the record, and then you see me jumping up and down, and they're like, "Aren't you at work?"
That's
and
funny.
so it humbled me at the same time that you kind of have to separate yourself from being a fan to being a professional. And so where I am to now, I sit courtside in incredible games, and I'm like, don't make any expression whatsoever.
Right.
You know, so it kind of humbled me early on that you got to take the fan part out because this is an actual job.
Yeah, inside you're rooting,
Correct.
right? Inside
Very
you're
much so.
super excited when
Yes.
something good happens
Yeah.
for your team.
Yeah.
You got to show no emotion.
Correct.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So you were all over TV?
I was all over TV jumping up and down with
Wow.
the work credential on.
That's fantastic. So you were with the Cowboys for about how long?
About a year, a little less than a year.
Okay.
And then after that, I moved back to San Antonio, and I got an opportunity at a sports agency in San Antonio.
Okay. What agency was that?
So that was Momentum Sports. So I got to work for a basketball agent, and this was more up my alley, which was exactly what I wanted to do. So I kind of helped office work, some help with recruiting pitches when they were recruiting different players, some PR stuff, some like writing. So I got a little experience with all, and it was really nice that it was in San Antonio because, you know, obviously not a lot of sports agencies are in San Antonio. So that helped. It was a small agency. We had like Desmond Mason, who was a decent name at that time. But it kind of got me on my path and to sports. And at the same time, when I was working at this agency in San Antonio, I was also helping UTSA, the university in San Antonio, with basketball games, doing stats, helping the PR person. So during this course of this, you know, year total, I was able to add the Cowboys, I was able to add UTSA, I was able to add this sports agency. So I started to build my resume up with all these little things to then hopefully catch the eye of somebody in a professional sports organization, because that was what I wanted to make my next move. I wanted to work for a professional team.
Yeah, and I mean, what really strikes me, I've known you for 10 plus years now. I haven't heard any of these stories, but what's really struck me is just all the different jobs you've done.
Yes.
Right. And you talked about with the Cowboys, right, where you were willing to do anything. Mm-hmm. You held a mic. Mm-hmm. You did a bunch of odd jobs, but you were happy to do it because that was your passion, right?
Yes.
The team was your passion. The sport is one of your passions. Sports is one of your passions, right? I think it's so important that, you know, that people be willing to do whatever it takes to get to where they want to go, especially in sports.
Oh, for sure. That's one of the biggest things is you got to like get out of your comfort zone. You got to get out of your hometown. You got to be willing to make those sacrifices because obviously we'd all like to live in our hometown for the most part, right? People don't move away from their hometown. They want to stay around. They want to work for that team. But really, you got to be open to moving anywhere. And that's what I had to do to get my first professional sports experience.
Yeah, move anywhere. And like you said, do anything you need to do. And I think that, you know, even just through this conversation, that part of what's made you who you are is all of the different jobs and skills you've been able to acquire because you were willing to do the odd jobs that you may not necessarily have been super passionate about, but there were things that you were willing to do.
Yeah, correct.
So you worked at Momentum, right? You were doing office work, more along the lines of what you wanted to do. And you said you wanted to work in pro sports and for a pro team. So where did you end up?
So I wanted to work for a pro team. And at that time, I mailed my resume to actual mail post office.
Wow.
I mailed my resume to every pro sports team in NFL, baseball, hockey, basketball. My passion was basketball, but I was willing to go anywhere. I mean, I interviewed for like the Seattle Storm, the Patriots, the Texans, the Niners, all these teams. But I got an interview with the New Orleans Hornets at that time. And I was able to find through my research that their main PR guy went to SMU, the same school I went to. And I had never been to New Orleans. I had never worked for an NBA team, but I was able to make that personal connection and get an interview. So once I got that interview, I talked myself up and I got the internship. So it didn't pay much. It paid about $1,000 a month max at that time. This is a long time ago. And they were like, you can start in 3 weeks. So
Wow.
I'd never been to New Orleans, like I said. And so I wasn't going to turn this down. But I was still fearful to leave my surroundings in my home. It was just a big chance at that time. So I drove out to New Orleans. And funny story is about halfway, I got a flat tire. And so I was sitting there at a Whataburger in East Texas contemplating life. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I can do this. And when everything got fixed, I was at a stop sign, and to the right was New Orleans, and to the left was San Antonio. And I
thought about it.
I thought about it. I
Yeah.
almost went left, and I was like, I can just go live at home, work at Banana Republic, well, whatever. But I was like, this is my passion. I want to take that chance. And it's really hard to take that chance when you're young. But I did. And I was like, I'm going to move to New Orleans. I'd never been there. And I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to gamble on myself. So I was able to be an internship in New Orleans, and it was an awesome experience. It's not the most fun work when you start out as an intern. A lot of like credentials and mailings and just doing whatever anybody else wants. But
Yeah.
I was in pro sports and super excited. So that's kind of how I got my start.
Yeah, and again, the theme here is willing to do whatever it takes, willing to take the chances.
Right.
I want to get back to the Pelicans in a second here, or the Hornets. Sorry, but you said you mailed every single professional sports team.
Yeah, I mailed every single person. I was able to find this website online, and it had basically all the contact info for each team, the PR director for each team. So I legit mailed I still remember going to the post office and dropping them all in the mail. And then I would follow up with some phone calls and emails at times, because that was still, email did exist. Computers did exist at that time, but still the touch of an actual mailing was more professional at that time of life.
Wow. I mean, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, it was very fortunate. I was going to go anywhere. It didn't matter if it was New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Miami. It doesn't matter where in the country it was. I was going to take that chance.
That's incredible. And again, I mean, I think like Jake Kelfer, who was on the podcast last week, he spoke a little bit about how he got his job with the Lakers. Very, very similar story. He literally found all the email addresses for every executive at every team and figured, look, if I shoot enough emails out, I'll get one response. If I impress the right person, then maybe I'll get a shot. And I think that's a common theme in sports for those of you who are looking to break in, is you have to be willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there like Dennis, like Jake Kelfer, and thousands of other stories that we're going to cover here on the podcast where people are willing to do what it takes. So for those of you who are willing or who want to break into sports, you really need to really have a hard think about whether or not it's really your passion. Because like Dennis said, you're going to do a lot of odd jobs. You're going to have to potentially move around all over the place. And if your passion's not there and you don't really, really want it, you'll fall off.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. But just, for everybody who's heading in that direction, just know that is, that's the reality of working in sports. There's only so many jobs. And so the people that have the most passion, the most drive, those are the people who are going to get the gigs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's a grind.
Yep. Absolutely. So you were at New Orleans. And I see here that you went from being an intern to becoming the director of basketball communications. That's unheard of. Tell the listeners a little bit about the timeline. Just tell us about how that happens. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, so it was a unique situation. So I was an intern for a year, and then I was able to stick another year internship there to make 2 years, and they had never had a 2-year intern there. So I was able to prove myself. I got another internship and was just hoping for a break. So they were very positive to me and my work ethic. I love the guys that I worked for there, and a lot of them have gone on to other careers and moved up the ladder. One of my direct boss is the VP at the Wizards, and then his supervisor is the VP at the New York Mets. So it was some great people I worked for in New Orleans, but I was able to move up to coordinator finally full time. And I remember thinking, man, if I could just make this much money, if I could just get this job, I'd be set for life. So it's very funny how you think early on. So I was very happy to be coordinator. The manager, about 2 years later, we moved to Oklahoma City. We moved to Oklahoma City because of Katrina. So we went through Hurricane Katrina, which was a crazy experience in itself. So we moved to Oklahoma City for 2 years, played there. The manager at the time moved to work for the Seattle Sonics. I proved myself enough, so I got to be manager. We moved back to New Orleans after those 2 years. And at that time, I was only an intern. I was an intern for 2, manager for about a year and a half. And then my boss left for the Wizards. And this time we were very good in New Orleans at that time. This is about 2007. And we almost made it to the finals that year. We had a really great team.
Who was on the squad?
Chris, Paul, Tyson, David West, Peja. It was a great team, and we lost the Spurs in 7 games in the second round. But I became director in the middle of that playoff series.
Wow.
My boss left for the Wizards. They had Arenas, they had Caron Butler, Jameson, and they're supposed to be just as good. So he left right at the beginning of the playoffs. So I took over this team with, a lot of hopes. And I was 28 or 9 at the time. So I was the youngest kind of PR director in the NBA at that time. So it was a lot of responsibility. But it was such an exciting time. And I was like just over the moon. So I got to be director. So I went from intern to director in about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So a lot of it was timing. A lot of it was work. A lot of it was relationships and being able to get along with certain people and being able to prove myself when I had that opportunity. And then also, showing the media and the players that I could responsible enough and powerful enough to do that gig. Yeah.
And so when you were thrown into the fire, basically, do you feel like you were bred to take that role when you did, or was it one of those things where you said, you know what, I'm just going to step up. I know I can do it, but who knows whether I'm really ready for this?
No, I think I was definitely bred into it. I mean, I had some good direction from my boss before me. So I was ready for it. After a couple of years dealing with professional athletes, I was in tune with them. I wasn't obviously not in awe of anybody. They're just regular people like us. So in the national media, I have great relationships with. And so one of my qualities that I think that I have, one of my strengths is being able to get along with people, right? So you never know when that relationship is going to come back in your life. So you never want to be angry. You don't want to be negative. You don't want to bash anybody, because in 5-10 years you could be on the flip side and that person you just never know. Life has a crazy way of coming back at you. So you just never know. So the relationships part is such a huge factor, and that really helped me in my role.
And so as director of communications, of basketball communications, give me some of the highlights of that job.
I traveled all the time. I traveled every game. So anytime the media, anytime anybody really needs to interview a player, talk to a player, they went through my position. So obviously I'm around the players 24/7, basically traveling, practice, shoot arounds, daily basis. So it's really organizing their schedules, making sure the media gets what they want, the players are happy. And then facilitating the staff requests, office requests, putting out any news on the team, managing a staff below me. So those are kind of the main duties. But it was a great time. I mean, we had a super young team. Obviously, Chris was an incredible young player, an MVP candidate. So it was a fun time to be in New Orleans, and it was a fun time for that team.
Absolutely, and great city from what I hear.
Great city, yeah, great city, great culture.
And so as director, obviously you had a bunch of people working for you, right? Can you speak a little bit as to, what those people did, how you managed them, your management style?
Yeah, I mean, I love the people that worked for me in New Orleans are some of my favorite people because we had a 2 intern system that we would hire every year. And the tree that has grown from the people in New Orleans is absolutely, we still have a text chain. All the people that we've worked in PR in New Orleans, we still text all the time. We have a text chain. Because we had some great times in New Orleans, and it was a good time, and everybody's kind of gone on to some amazing careers, whether it's in, a lot of them are in other professional sports teams, or some of them are in, other agencies and stuff like that. So everybody's been very successful, and that's kind of the thing that makes me the most proud, especially in my time in New Orleans, is the people that were interns, coordinators, managers below me. A lot of them are either, at my same level almost, or they've gone on to do very successful careers. So that makes it an awesome feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure it's super rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And Albert Hall and Warren Legary, whom we're both very close with, they run the NBA Summer League, and they've placed hundreds of people in jobs across sports. Like, they talk about it all the time, that placing people in jobs is one of the most rewarding things that they do.
Yeah.
So I can totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So you were in New Orleans for how many years total?
About 9.5.
And then where'd you end up after that?
So about 9.5 years. So, and then, I was in New Orleans. It was a Monday night. I was watching Monday Night Football, working out, and I got a phone call, and it was like, "Hey, I'm not sure if you heard, but this person's leaving the LA Clippers. He'd been there 20 years, and he's leaving the Clippers. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah." Next morning, Clippers called me. They're like, "You want to come out, interview for this job?" Yeah. Thursday, I flew out there. Met with a bunch of people, went to a game, flew right back to New Orleans. Saturday, they offered me the job. 2 weeks later, I was in my last Hornets home game, and then the next day, my first Clippers home game.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
from one day to the next.
It was such a quick process, and it was just like all of a sudden, it just out of the blue, phone call, my life changed overnight. And so I had actually interviewed for the Clippers about 3-4 years prior, but I turned down a job. And I had turned down a few jobs during that time frame, and I didn't think it was the right time. I didn't think it was the right place. A lot of factors. I even interviewed for a couple jobs that I didn't get. I was like runner-up or didn't make it to the final round, right? And it's really funny sometimes when you look back about those jobs that you didn't get, that you were so bummed about, or you're so frustrated, or why didn't they call me back, or why didn't I get it? That person who got it, they're not as qualified as me, right? But sometimes it's really a blessing in disguise, and you can look back and say, like, man, I'm glad I didn't get that job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I almost got a job in baseball, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't get that job.
Yeah.
I'm so glad when I look back that I didn't get that job, and I am where I am.
Now, what job was that you were applying for?
It was a job with a baseball team in Texas. So there's only 2, so it's one of those. But it was about 65% of the travel, and it was and they weren't very good for a long time during that time frame. So, I think it was just me thinking, like, let's get back to Texas. Like, that'd be awesome. But I don't really think I thought it through, because 65% of travel in baseball is a ton.
Yeah.
And then you have spring training of 6 weeks. So you really have no life. And baseball is an incredible grind. Basketball's a grind, believe me, 82 games. But baseball, that's unreal.
Yeah. No, it is. Like you said, it's funny how things work out, right? If you would have gotten into baseball, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. A lot of great things that have happened in your life wouldn't have happened to you.
Right.
And we'll get into some of that. But when you took the job with the Clippers, or when you actually got the job with the Clippers, what do you think was different the second time around?
I think it was a lot of things. First of all, I was older in my career, and I was more groomed. So I had been in New Orleans 9 years. I loved it. I loved the city of New Orleans, and I loved the organization. But I thought it was time for me to do something different, because I thought I had grown as high as I was going to get in New Orleans. So LA came calling, and obviously that's the second biggest media market in the U.S. It's a huge city. I was born in LA, barely lived there, but I was still born in LA. And I love LA. Who doesn't like LA, right? And at the time they had Blake. Chris just came over, and I had been with Chris for 8 years in New Orleans ever since day one of his NBA career. So that familiarity was there.
Yeah,
and I had a great relationship with him. And I thought they could compete for a championship. And that's what ultimately I wanted, to work for an organization that could compete for a championship and hopefully win one.
Yeah.
And the opportunities of living in a big market like LA, the networking, the people you meet, just the opportunities that come with it, like the TV exposure that you get with players, the stuff that you can do on the side with the players and grow their brands is just, it's unlike any other city in the US.
Yeah. So with that said, do you think for people who are trying to break into sports, obviously you don't have to do this, but is there a benefit to moving to a city that has a lot going on from a sports and business and entertainment perspective, if that's what you're trying to get into? What are your thoughts on that?
I do think that is correct. I mean, obviously when you look at LA, there's two of everything, right? So you think, oh, there's more opportunity. But I do think that, like, wherever you're from, there's something there, whether it's a AAA team, AA, small college, major college, one pro team, whatever it is, I think there's opportunities. So I always tell people, like, try your hometown, like try and get your start there, because, it's easy, like, to work for your hometown team. Like, they're going to hire somebody probably local because that's the easy route, right? Especially somebody volunteering.
Yeah.
And if you're flexible and available, which is obviously, it's a tough thing sometimes when they require nighttime hours, and sometimes getting there like at 4 or 3 when you have a job. But a lot of times I always try, like, go in your hometown team, say, like, hey, let me shadow you for a day. Let me try and get some kind of angle. But then when you get a little experience, I think that big market is there because there's so many opportunities, whether it's professional sports, esports now, whatever it is.
No question. I mean, there's so much opportunity out there, and it's really out there. It's up for grabs. It's really up for grabs for the people who want to work the hardest for it and want to persevere for it. So back to the Clippers. When you joined, you were the director of team PR and publications. So was that job any different than what you were doing in New Orleans? Or?
It wasn't too different, honestly. It was fairly similar. I took on a few more publications, facets of, like, the media guide and yearbook and some, magazines and stuff like that. But it wasn't too different. It was managing kind of the players, the front office, and kind of everything that happens on the basketball court.
Now, I see that since you've been with the Clippers, at one point you oversaw digital marketing, which is my passion. And you guys on the digital side were top 10 in every social media and website category in the NBA. First of all, congratulations. That's amazing. Tell us a little bit about, how that happens.
Yeah. So each year I kind of look at my position in my career, and I want to continue to grow it, whether it's doing something different or adding something to my skill set. And so at that time, that was kind of the real big push of social media. And obviously now it's everything in today's world. But at that time, we're talking like 5 years ago, about that time frame. Our digital media, social media at the Clippers we really didn't have a lot of people. So I was like, let me add it to my title. Let me take it over for a year, see what I can do. Because I feel like I'm fairly in touch with these guys, and we, obviously with DJ, Blake, Chris, it was an incredible personalities, and their brands themselves. So we were able to form a little small team and really push the envelope that year and do really well. And then now, obviously, I'm not in that field anymore. I went back to PR, but now our social team is just incredible, and our digital media team is just, I think, the best in the NBA, because we take it so seriously and it's so important to us.
Yeah. And how big was the team at the time when you guys?
Like 3 people.
3 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, it helps having Blake and DJ.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Chris.
just it wasn't. At that time, it was still growing, and it wasn't as important in a lot of people's minds as it is today. So we're very, we wanted to push it, and I wanted to kind of push it to the forefront, and then kind of hire somebody really to specialize in that, so I could get back to kind of team PR as well. So it took a little while, but now today it's unreal for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, a lot of good things happening over at the Clippers right now. I mean, tell us a little bit about your role right now.
So right now I deal, all team wise, all basketball wise, do a lot of, help putting the guys on different shows, a lot of entertainment relations, celebrity relations with the, around LA and stuff. So anything that happens on the basketball court, I deal with. So we've been very fortunate to really kind of do a lot of great storytelling the past couple of years and a lot of great messaging. So we've really put a focus on that to try and grow our players and grow our team messaging, and it's really paid off.
What would you say is your favorite part of the job?
I think the relationships part. I think just getting to know the players, the staff, the media. Utilizing kind of the relationship part of that job, and just helping that and helping everybody grow their brand.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it always helps when you have fun stories to tell.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And like in today's world, every player is almost their own brand. So it's really important to, everybody's got great stories. It's really important to find those stories and kind of push them and make sure everybody kind of knows those stories.
And do you help guide the players' brands? Like, do you consult with them on what they should and shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we want what's best for our guys and our players and our team. So we want what's best. So I want those guys to shine, whether they're on the same team or not on the same team. Like when we had Tobias Harris, Tobias is one of my favorite guys, and we really wanted to grow his brand, and I thought we did that. And he's such a good guy and got such a great story to tell.
No question. Now, you've had the opportunity with the Clippers to work and learn from some just legendary figures in basketball. Jerry West, Doc Rivers, Steve Ballmer. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you've learned from those guys.
Well, Doc is, I've been very fortunate to work with Doc for 5-6 years now, and just seeing him work and how he is the voice of the team and how he was the voice of the team through very tough times for the Clippers organization. It's very impressive. He commands a room, and deservedly so. He's very respected. He's very good at what he does, but he's a great person too, and he's really good about knowing how to treat people the right way. And he's a joy to kind of learn from and watch. I get to work with him, on a daily basis and in very close quarters. So it's been a pleasure. And, obviously with Jerry West, he's the logo. Yeah, the logo. It's amazing. My eyes light up when I see him and hear his stories, and he's just a great asset for us, and he's a great person as well. And I've been fortunate to be friends with one of his sons, Johnny, and it's really cool just to work with his dad and just hear stories and just learn from that and just sit back, because my parents, they're like, wow, Jerry West, this is amazing,
right?
So it's a very cool experience.
I can imagine. And I think that having the right mentors and the right people to learn from wherever you're at in your career is so important, right? Yes. I mean, you talked about New Orleans, right? And learning from the right people and being able to be thrown in the fire because you were ready, right? And now for you to be, here in LA, learning from Jerry West and Doc Rivers and Steve Ballmer and just being around those guys, right? Yeah. I mean, the reality is just being around those guys is going to raise the level of your game. Yeah, it's an amazing time. I've been fortunate to be with the Clippers for a little bit of time now, and to where we are right now, it's an amazing place to be at, to work for. The organization is just it's at an all-time high. I feel like when I tell people, whether they're interviewing for a job or whatever, when they ask how it is, I'm like, to be honest, like it's amazing. It's a great place. People get along, people like each other, people communicate, like it's an incredible, people value each other's opinion. Like it's a great place to be right now. Yeah, no question. But I mean, and you deserve to be here. This is 20 years you've been working in sports for 20 years now? Yeah, about 20 years. This is my 16th NBA season. Yeah. So 20 years, how many cities? I didn't count since you left home. About six. 20 years. Yeah, 6 cities, 6, 7 cities. 6 cities. Yeah. A lot of odd jobs. Yeah. A lot of ups and downs, but here you are. Yeah. Here you are working for some of the most influential people in basketball. That's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my wife tells me all the time, like, be very thankful, because a lot of times we get caught up in our rut and caught up in like, oh, this is stressful, or but just to sit back and be super thankful where you're at, and don't be jealous of this person who has a bigger job or makes more money, or is younger than you, doing all this. Like, be very thankful for where you're at, because the grass is not always greener, and obviously there's a million people who wish they could be in your shoes.
No question. I mean, you've got a fantastic job, but I think, the truth of the matter is, the key to life is not how much money you make, it's happiness.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the whole game is to figure out what makes you happy, and then figure out how to put yourself in a position to be happy.
Yep.
And it sounds to me like you've done that.
Yeah, hope so, and I hope it continues. But
I hope so too.
Thankful to where I'm at, and it's been fun.
Yeah, I hope so too. A few more questions. One topic I want to touch on is an event that is near and dear to both of our hearts, the NBA Summer League. You've been a part of the Summer League for how many years now?
Since day one, whatever that was. That was 14, 15, 16 years ago.
This year was year 15.
Yeah, 15 years ago.
This is year 15. Okay. And so tell me a little bit about how you got involved.
Yeah.
What your role was.
Man, that was, the Summer League just kind of lights me up, because it's kind of like in my lifeline. Like, I love Summer League so much. So it was back, I think, 2004. I had heard about this Summer League. I read about it, and I was like, man, that'd be an awesome thing to work, right? Love Vegas, love basketball. And I'm young. I'm still an intern at that time.
Wait, you were an intern?
I was an intern in New Orleans at that time, yeah.
Okay.
So I was able to find an email for Summer League, and I emailed Albert Hall. And so I said, Albert, I work for the New Orleans Hornets. I'm an intern. I work in the NBA. I would love to help the Summer League. Anything you want me to do, I'm there. You don't have to pay me. You don't have to fly me. I'll come out there on my own. That's how passionate I am. I think this is going to work. I love it. I love the idea. I'd love to be a part of it. Boom, Albert hits me right back and calls me and says, you're in, let's go. I'll see you out here in a week or two. And so I went out there, and it was just me, Albert, Warren, Marnie. It was a super small crew.
Yeah.
I can't remember if Carla was that year or the year after. But it was, and we worked at, 6 teams a week or so, and it was an awesome experience. And to see 15, 20 people in the stands for a game to now what it is, and to see each year how it's grown. I mean, you've seen it too. But to see like the beginning of Summer League and the Global Hoop Summit, like the Global Hoop Summit was just like a collection of random like international teams that we threw in there. And that's like very old school Summer League.
Yeah.
The Global Hoop Summit in there. But it's like a special group of people that just worked their tail off and knew they had something, and we're going to work it through until it came to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody looks at the Summer League and says that it's a quote unquote overnight success, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You know that is definitely not the case.
No, yeah.
And you've put in 15 years now.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to really work, and obviously, everybody wants to be in Vegas and work in basketball, but
they do now.
They do now.
But
it takes a really special person, and you see this to be able to handle themselves and work hard and work those 15, 16-hour days and just put in that grind to do the betterment of the whole team. And I was able to kind of stick on to Summer League each year, and I led the PR efforts and the reach, and wrote all the game stories from all 80 plus games or whatever, and kind of got people in attendance media wise, and put stories out there to grow the brand. And it's been a huge blessing. I would say that is maybe the most important thing in my career growth is the NBA Summer League, and how that has kind of become a family for me, and it helped me get where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I myself have been a part of the Summer League for about 11 years now. Mm-hmm. And you and I are close friends as a result of it. And I know that if you were to take a look at who worked the original summer league or who's been a summer league intern or staff member over the past 15 years and where they've ended up. I mean, it's a who's who list,
it is.
Right?
It's
I mean, if you can name a few of the people that have come through the program that you're still friends with today.
I mean, I'm friends with so many people. Honestly, it's such a great group of people. But a lot of my close friends, I mean, 2 of my groomsmen were I met them at Summer League. So a lot of people in my wedding were from Summer League. So I mean, a lot of them, Ben Tenzer from the Nuggets, who's high up at the Nuggets, Alex Snyder and Drew at Wasserman, Nick at the Warriors, BJ is in Milwaukee. I mean, there's so many people. Tellums, there's so many people that have kind of grown up through Summer League and met along the way. And it's an awesome experience when I travel around and see, Cody in Denver and just all of these people that have worked Summer League. Marnie. I mean, I could go on and on about the names, but a lot of them are, obviously coworkers, but they're super close friends and people that I'll know in my life for probably the rest of my life.
Yeah, no question. So with that said, for those people who are listening, who are trying to break into sports, talk a little bit about the role of relationships in sports.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything. I think it's putting yourself out there, it's developing relationships, and it's not being afraid to do something that's not that much fun. Because you got to start somewhere, and you got to take any kind of job sometimes when you want to work in this field. So it's being able to take no's a lot. It's being able to persevere. It's being able to put yourself out there and push the envelope and make those phone calls or shoot those emails to those random people that you have no idea who they are, but you just
send those letters, right?
Send those
so
letters. You just want to put yourself out there, and hopefully you'll make a connection somehow. Whether it's they went to your same college, or like you have the same interests, or somehow a friend of a friend to get that intro. There's always a way that you can find somebody that has a connection to you.
Yeah, it's just all about wanting it enough. And again, I want to reiterate, because this is the theme of this particular podcast. You talked about getting into Summer League, right? You told Albert that you'll do anything. You'll find a place to stay. You'll work for free, right? I mean, you're really checking all the boxes.
Yeah.
You had some experience at the time. I mean, that's what it takes, ladies and gentlemen. That is, I'm sure you get thousands of resumes a year.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to get into what you look at. Right. But at the very base level, it's, I assume, and tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, it's being willing to do whatever it takes.
Yes.
Right. That is step one. If you are not willing to do whatever it takes and really grind, unfortunately, this business is not for you.
Yes.
So with that said, tell us a little bit about, when you do get these resumes and you do interview people, tell us a little bit about, what you look for in potential candidates.
Yeah, I look for a few things. I look for, obviously, the work ethic, to see where they've been, what they do. I look for passion. Because I truly believe like the passion that somebody has can sometimes override the experience factor.
Sure.
Because if somebody's willing to just have that passion and work ethic, I've seen it at Summer League a lot. I'll think of like Edgar from Summer League. I've seen him from the start to where he's at. He had that passion, right? And he had that work ethic. Jake has it. You see it all the time, and that can override a lot of non-experience, because people see that and like, oh, that this guy's going to succeed because of that passion.
Yeah.
I look for obviously where they went to the college and kind of where they kind of grew up, to see if they can handle stuff like this. I look for kind of their demeanor, because in sports there's going to be a lot of stressful times, a lot of times late at night that you'll need stuff done. Can they handle that grind? Do they understand what it takes in sports, that it's 24/7? You're not going to have weekends a lot of times. You're going to be working. It's not as glamorous as you think. Can you handle that grind of sports in that time? Are you too much of a fan person that you can't separate the two? Stuff like that I look for.
Right. Don't be a fan.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't be a fan. Can you keep it professional? And then to see kind of what you want in life. What do you want to do? Where do you want life to take you? What do you want in your career? What do you hope to gain from this? And what makes you happy?
Yeah, I mean, all fantastic questions. And I'm sure you have a fantastic team as a result of it.
Yeah. We have a great team, and we have some really hard workers. And honestly, like when I look at my team or where I've been, I want the person, no matter where they are, at any level, to be able to do what I do. So I want them to succeed. So I take a step back a lot of times, and I want them to be able to do what I do. So it's not segregated where like you do this, I do that. Like we want to be a team.
Yeah.
And to be a team, they have to be able to do what you do. And there's no egos. Like your ego is not your amigo.
Your ego is not your amigo.
Yeah,
exactly.
So there's that plays a huge factor. So you always want those people.
Yeah. No question. And I think you probably do that based on your experience when you were with New Orleans, when you were prepped and ready to go, when you were thrown into the fire. I'm sure that's probably where you got that.
For sure.
What is something that people who want to break into the NBA, what is something that you think that they should know for our listeners?
And I think they should know that it is a job. It's a tough job, and that you have to be ready for that grind. I mean, it is a lot of long nights. It's a lot of travel. It's just a lot of everything. It's in this day and age with cell phones and emails, like a lot of times people expect an answer at 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday. So you just have to be prepared, that you have to really love it, I would say. You have to love sports. You have to love basketball. You have to have extreme passion. Because it consumes you. And not to say like you can't have a social life or a personal life. Everybody wants that, and I definitely want that for myself and everybody else. But it's a grind. It's not glamorous. It's fun. It's definitely a lot of fun at times, but it's a stressful grind that it takes a special person to kind of break through in sports.
No question. So we're almost done here.
All right.
But I want to finish off with some rapid fire questions. Doesn't necessarily mean rapid fire answers.
All right.
Okay, your choice here. When you think of the word successful, who's the first person or people who come to mind, and why?
I mean, I'll keep with the Summer League angle. I think Albert and Warren. I think just their perseverance to make Summer League work, the vision that they had, how they saw the other summer leagues and wanted to put something in Vegas, to see what it is today, to see everything they've done on the court and off the court for the community, and how successful they've been, and how, just to watch, I challenge you to go to a summer league game and just watch Albert and Warren from afar, just how
it's impressive.
It is impressive. They're moving everywhere.
Yeah,
they got everything down. Warren's saying hi to everybody. It's very impressive how they work the room. So I look up to them a lot.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I encourage anybody who wants to break into sports, and especially people who love basketball, go to Summer League and watch Albert Hall and Warren Legary work. It really truly is impressive. Yeah. Okay. I'm younger than both of them, and I can tell you right now that they've got more energy than I do, and it's because of passion.
Yeah, for sure.
It's because of passion. Top 3 favorite NBA cities and why?
Wow, that's a good one. Let's see. I love Dallas, obviously, because that's where I'm from, and I love going there. I love Toronto. Love the culture. Love the food. I just love the city and the atmosphere. And then let's see, the third one. Let's go New York City. Very easy. Just because it's the feeling you get when you're in New York, the Mecca, being at the Garden, the history there. But there's a lot of NBA cities I really enjoy. I've been to them multiple times. Portland's a great one. Denver's a great one. There's a lot. I can keep
a lot of amazing
on.
U.S. cities. That's for sure.
And a couple. Yeah.
But I mean, with that said, you get to travel quite a bit, right? Internationally as well. And plus you said that exploring the world and traveling is one of your passions.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite all-time destination? Favorite country?
Yeah, I do have I have 2 favorite countries. Italy.
Okay.
Obviously, it's just a beautiful place. I just love their way of life and just how they enjoy life. They enjoy people. like just it's beautiful how they live life and don't take things too seriously. And then I love Thailand. The people of Thailand are the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Okay.
It's just such a welcoming country and a beautiful country in its own right, and it's a great place. I've been to 3 different cities in Thailand, and I just came back from Thailand and Singapore and Bali, and it's just Southeast Asia, and is just an awesome place to travel.
Yeah, I'm Thailand's one on the short list of countries for me to go to next year.
Yeah.
So good to hear. It may have moved to the very top of my list after that
great
recommendation. If you could send an email to all sports business industry hopefuls, right? It'd reach everybody who wants to break into the business. Okay. And the idea is to give them some advice as far as how to break in and have a successful career. Like, what would that email say?
It would say, humble yourself first, because there's so many qualified people out there, and be willing to take that job that other people aren't. And then put yourself out there. And what I mean by that is shoot those emails to those places you want to work for. Try and find those connections. Try and find those contacts. A lot of times people aren't going to email you back. They have busy schedules, or it is what it is, right? But don't feel, any kind of way. Keep persevering. And a lot of times, whether it's saying you want to volunteer to work a game, you want to maybe shadow somebody to see how it is, because a lot of people will let you do that. And try and make those connections. Try and work on a game night staff somewhere to break in. Try and get an internship in the summer or during the school year if you can. That's kind of my biggest advice that I always tell people, like, hit those emails. Like, it doesn't take a lot of time to find somebody. You can, with anything on the internet, you can find the right contact. So put yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about for longevity, having longevity in sports once you've broken in? Any advice there?
Yeah, just the relationships factor. I mean, like I said, treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Don't have any enemies, because a lot of times you just never know where the sports world will take you. I've seen it happen, and I've been able to persevere in my career because of those relationships. And just understand that, it's a grind, but you love what you do, and be thankful.
No question. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for coming on. I think this has been super, super informative for our guests. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Definitely hope to do round 2 at some point if
ready.
you're up for it.
Yeah.
Want to finish with this. Do you have any ask for the audience? You wanted to follow you on social media, follow the Clippers, sign up for an email list.
Follow the Clippers, follow Summer League, follow VSL.
There you go.
There we go.
Dennis, appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome.
And there you have it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this interview with the one and only Dennis Rogers. If you did, make sure to share this with your friends, post it on social media, and subscribe and review. You can find the show notes at sportsbusinessclassroom.com/Dennis-Rogers.